To answer the question on everyone's mind, yes, this is real. This isn't a parody or a joke. This is a legitimate belief the YouTuber Legia Miller has.
Oh my god, Diesel. Why can't you just be open-minded for once?
Maybe there is some sort of underlining issue that supports this claim that fascists want you thin, but if there is, Legia does a terrible job convincing people this is real. The topics that are brought up are relevant, somewhat, but the problem with Legia's argument is that she fails to make a connection between fascism and thin body culture that's coherent. There's really nothing more to say until we watch the video, so let's just start.
I don't know about you, but my For You page has been dominated by discussions about the rise in popularity of extreme thinness, perpetuated partially by the current press tour for the second installment of the Wicked franchise. Many people have noted the extreme change in body fat percentages of the cast members, specifically Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, and Michelle Yeoh, all of whom appeared on red carpets recently looking especially gaunt. This has sparked a larger conversation about how extreme thinness is actually reinforced and perpetuated by fascism, and that it is no coincidence that thin is once again in now that we have a fascist regime controlling the government.
So we begin by using the Wicked actresses as an example for this epidemic of fascists promoting thin people, and proof that thin culture is back. Problem is, well, for one, thin culture has existed within the United States long before these two were even a sperm cell. Legia brings this up, but fails to explain why Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are special cases. Secondly, no one even likes these two. The reason this matters is because Legia argues that being skinny is mainstream and the ideal body type again, and uses these two as evidence to support her claim. Yeah, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are apparently living proof that skinny culture is back. Two actresses that are not only called weird on a daily basis, the opposite of being worshipped, but are constantly given tweets from people who comment on their health because they look fucking sickly.
Much like the current milieu in the United States is ripe for fascism, it's also ripe for the re-emergence of the heroin chic aesthetic. But the thesis that I would like to present to you today is that while I think it serves the fascist agenda, I think that this is merely a happy coincidence for the fascists and not the result of some vast fascist conspiracy. Because it turns out we've been policing bodies and weight for a long, long time, and that policing serves not to uphold fascism, but instead to uphold the various ideologies that happen to serve fascism.
So the fascist government isn't actively trying to make people skinny as some sort of big conspiracy, but according to you, they still want people to be skinny because it's convenient for them. Okay. I'm trying to imagine what evidence you can bring forward to connect fascism with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. Spoilers, these two don't become relevant within this topic until towards the end of the video, despite being a main talking point within her introduction and being in the thumbnail. What we're gonna get instead is a bloated mess of talking points that might seem relevant to her overall position, but she fails to make any sort of genuine connections.
And it is true that historically, fascist regimes like Hitler's, like Mussolini's, placed a lot of emphasis on bodies, on the physical human form as a symbol of nationhood. The agile, athletic body ideal was directly tied in Nazi propaganda with the strength and health of the nation, which was a really enticing image in a country that was struggling to regain its strength after World War I. The first president of the Weimar Republic in Germany between World War I and the rise of Hitler, Friedrich Ebert, was photographed in a bathing suit next to Defense Minister Gustav Noske, and the two were openly mocked for years afterwards because of how unfit they both looked. The public seeing this as a metaphor for the weak and flabby state of the government of Germany after the First World War.
Your argument is the government wants their people to represent how others should perceive their nation. The problem with this comparison is that these two are the examples you're pushing to prove the US government is promoting skinny culture through a fascist rhetoric. The examples from the fascist governments in the past that you provided displayed athletic bodies to show how powerful and strong their nations are. Well, if we compare the US examples, I would say these two are neither athletic nor imposing. This is unhealthy, and it's certainly not a symbol of prospering. Your proof of history repeating itself has two different results. If your argument is that the United States is trying to push a certain body image for another reason, I don't see how that makes it fascist, just because fascist governments in the past would use athletic bodies to show that they're imposing.
And listen, I can already picture the comments section. Some of you may think it's really not all that deep. In fact, I went unwillingly into the bowels of Reddit to understand some of this health-based body policing ideology, and I found myself in a subreddit called Fat Logic.
So far, your resources consist of a paid sponsorship and Reddit. Yeah, for some reason I'm not too confident in your research. Now granted, Legia does use other resources, but instead of including data or evidence, Legia uses quotes from books that she has read that's relevant to the topic, but all these screenshots really do is just reinforce the belief she already believes in. These statements don't give evidence, so how is this supposed to convince me? If these experts that you're using have data and evidence themselves, then you should be using that.
According to the page's About section, quote, falling victim to fat logic means accepting misinformation that will harm efforts to keep your body at a healthy weight or lose weight if you need to do so. There is so much to unpack about this, but I noted some common objections that these health warriors had to so-called fat activists, equating thinness with fascism, because I have seen these same ideas swirling all over the place online, including in my own comment section. Those objections include that it's not that deep. Not everything has to be political. Though I feel like if you're watching my content, you probably already understand that nothing happens in a vacuum and everything is political if you just take a second to rub two brain cells together and think about it.
Your counter-argument that, well, everything is actually political still doesn't prove that fascism specifically is tied to skinny culture. It's weird because when you watch this entire video, her main point, that there's a connection between skinny culture and fascism, slowly turns into everything is political actually. And I guess you could say those two are somewhat similar, but again, she never provides a genuine connection for how skinny culture and fascism are connected. We're 10 minutes in, and she has yet to provide any sort of substantial evidence to back up her claim besides some smelly subreddit, which was just used to show that, from her perspective, these people have crazy takes. You mean to tell me there are people online who make fun of the body positivity movement? What a revelation.
And then a lot of the other arguments that they had against the idea that thinness serves fascism, I think stems from this idea, which again I've seen all over the internet, that there is a very strict binary here. Anyone who isn't preaching the gospel of maintaining a healthy weight is instead advocating for everyone to be so immobilized by their obesity that they can hardly get off the couch, which is also, I think, a willfully ignorant interpretation of the body positivity movement.
These counter-arguments so far are completely pointless. The arguments from the comment section being presented have nothing to do with fascism and only serve as easy slam dunks for irrelevant talking points. So far, we have
Actually, everything is political.
And
Actually, the body positivity movement isn't about promoting obesity. The movement is entirely misunderstood.
everything about this section is completely pointless.
The point is that the popular notion that thin is preferable has origins in the transatlantic slave trade, fear of being associated with blackness, and religious ideals of piety and self-control, also as a means of differentiating and distancing oneself from blackness and poverty.
Look, you can argue that the origins of the skinny physique being perceived by society as preferable was very problematic all you want, but these origins are not what influence body types today, so this is a moot point. Legia then pulls up a quote from an author who claims, for black women, thinness now operates as a form of social capital, a means to navigate a world that polices black bodies with even greater scrutiny. In spaces where thinness is equated with success, health, and desirability, black women are pressured to conform to these standards, further erasing the rich diversity of body types within black communities. Again, I don't know how true this is because Legia fails to provide any sort of evidence. It's merely another individual's outlook on the topic.
It is health that is put on this pedestal because it is so unattainable for the average person who has high cortisol from the stress of working and trying to pay for rent and healthcare and everything else that's expensive but necessary for living. Someone who doesn't have time to go to the gym or meal prep or have the energy to eat 3 balanced, high protein, high fiber meals every day. The moneyed class with leisure is the only class capable of truly attaining health at the level that society has deemed is correct.
I think this is exactly where Legia Miller's thesis that fascists want people to be thin completely falls apart. This is a straight-up contradiction to what she said before. Legia is now claiming that the US makes it impossible for anyone who isn't upper class to obtain society's idea of the desired body type, since the rich elite make it impossible based on how capitalism is structured.
But Diesel, Legia does make a distinction between health and thinness.
Okay, but that's her perspective. Her argument is that this body type is what the quote-unquote fascist government government deems what health looks like. So we're talking about the government's perception on what is health. If Leach's belief is that the US makes it difficult for people to become healthy, then this video should be titled, "Fascists Want You Unhealthy." This is a way more believable position to have, and accurately fits with Leach's talking points, and at least the ones that are relevant to this conversation and mean anything. Leach's video would improve a lot if she were just to cut out the fluff and filler, like the body positivity conversation about how the movement is misguided. That's completely irrelevant to how fascists want people to be thin. How this video comes across to me is Leisha wanting to make a clickbaity title for a claim that seems outrageous and tricks her fans into thinking there's actually some merit when connecting fascism and thinness. Leisha's defense can't be, well, I was just reviewing the topic, going over people's talking points, which in fairness, she is, but at the same time, this is her thesis.
But the thesis that I would like to present to you today is that while I think it serves the fascist agenda, I think that this is merely a happy coincidence for the fascists and not the result of some vast fascist conspiracy. Because it turns out we've been policing bodies and weight for a long, long time, and that policing serves not to uphold fascism, but instead to uphold the various ideologies that happen to serve fascism.
This is her belief, and she does a terrible job supporting it. She claims that according to the government, being thin is what's considered healthy. Then she argues that the system implemented by the government makes achieving that perception of health, which is thinness, unattainable for anyone who isn't rich. And based on her own logic, that would mean Trump isn't a fascist because he's making it hard for people to become thin. Not to mention, the basis of Leach's claim, the example that started this conversation in the first place, is nonsensical. The idea that Ariana and Cynthia are idolized for their bodies and serve as proof that the direction the US is heading into for body image and health is thin culture is straight up false. Is there a poll that shows how society feels about these two and their bodies? No, but Leisha is the one arguing that these two prove that fascists are getting what they want, which is the preference of Americans being thin, and yet she never once provides online discourse or any sort of evidence that proves there are people that idolize Ariana and Cynthia. You can make an argument the US is heading in that direction with much stronger examples such as Ozempic, which Leisha does bring up in her video, but she fails to actually go in depth how this drug is utilized by the government or how it ties to fascism. Instead, she would rather create this false reality of, look at the wicked actresses, fascism wants this. There's not even a loose connection there, there's just no connection at all.
Much like MAGA today and Reagan last century taught us to fear the welfare queens and the immigrants mooching off the system, anyone who is unhealthy because of anything that might be attributable to lifestyle choices is simply mooching off the system because of their own ignorance, stupidity, and laziness. And listen, let me acknowledge, there is definitely personal agency when it comes to your individual health. I'm not saying people are just the hopeless, hapless results of their environment and they should just lay down and accept the nihilism of their situation.
That's literally what you just said twice now. What the fuck? You word for word claim that for anyone who isn't rich, the ideal health is unattainable and impossible.
The moneyed class with leisure is the only class capable of truly attaining health at the level that society has deemed is correct. But thanks to that rugged individualism, it's actually all our fault as individuals if we can't muscle through, literally, the impossible societal odds and just be healthy.
So is it suddenly not impossible for anyone who isn't rich to become healthy? It's like you said this knowing full well people would call you out, so you throw in this little clip that allows your fans to reply with a timestamp of you saying it's not impossible, and then they can have their epic lib owning the MAGA chungus moment.
Well, the perfect storm is already there, and the drug manufacturers are simply cashing in. And it is us, online, in the comment sections, in our communities, doing the policing work that benefits the fascists and the capitalists by commenting endlessly on whether or not people are living up to the healthy ideals that they are morally supposed to live up to, including Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo and Michelle Yeoh, who have gone too far and I'm not sure they're healthy, and therefore they are worthy of criticism.
Okay, so it's alright to criticize Ariana and Cynthia for their bodies because they look unhealthy, but at the same time, body weight doesn't necessarily equate to health, and moral emphasis on health is wrong. God, you make no sense. Also, I love how you're like, they do deserve criticism, guys. As if people have been nonstop praising them for the past year. I have yet to see anyone call these two the peak of beauty or the desired body type, or even find them fucking likable.
You actually can't tell a person's health by just looking at them. That's literally why we have doctors and scanners and blood tests and urine tests and DEXA scans and all the other shit we rely on, so that doctors can try to see what's actually happening in our bodies, because turns out it's really complex.
You just fucking did that with the wicked actresses. You claim these two are unhealthy, and unless you have access to their medical records, this is nothing but self-contradictory. We don't know exactly why these two are so skinny, and yet Legia is using them to push this chronically online narrative that their bodies are somehow tied to fascism.
And while we all fight each other over whether or not we're healthy enough to deserve empathy or food stamps, meanwhile, Elon Musk has made $10 million in the time it's taken you to watch this video. You may think it's not that deep, but it so fucking is.
Oh, that makes me so mad. Grr. I can't believe Elon Musk just got more rich while I'm wasting my time on this topic by watching this video.
So what do we do about this? I would challenge you to decenter capitalism from your life as much as possible. That's kind of a major fix for a lot of the ills of society. Can you borrow the thing instead of buying it? Can you make do with what you already have? Do you actually need the thing to begin with?
Yeah, that's right, everyone. In order to decenter capitalism from your lives, try borrowing from your neighbor more, instead of feeling the urge to purchase new items. Unless there's a new merch drop within the Legia Miller store. That's right, for just $25, you can buy this new tote bag while sticking it to those evil capitalists. Or how about a Reagan Ruined Everything t-shirt for just $29? Capitalism is just so lame. But you know what's even more lame? Not taking advantage of 40% off for unlimited access on the Vantage Ground News plan. No, but seriously, guys, a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. It's just so sad that he died. Died before he had a chance to enter into my free sex toy giveaway with the purchase of one or more items! And to conclude, this video is extremely messy and fails to support the claim that fascists want people skinny. If you want to do a deep dive on how society perceives people who are overweight, fine, but maybe without integrating fascism within the topic, because you want to do a little bit of clickbaiting.